Hey guys, so I wanted to share, in my opinion, one of the most fun comps to be playing in the current meta, and that's the Lubber strat. So I have a gameplay in the back that's going to be done with Edwin, which is one of the best heroes for doing this. But in this video, I'm going to break down kind of what are the key minions that you should be looking for, and really a breakdown of when you should be looking to play this, what you should be looking for to do in this, and then also kind of a breakdown of what each hero can do with this strategy to make it so you don't go an 8 on 8. So, getting started, the first major thing is what are the key minions. The first one is obviously Lubber. This gives you an extra spell in the shop. One of the key things to realize is if you have too many of the Lubbers, you get less minions in the shop, which is actually a strat you can do that I'll go into later, but that kind of can make it so you can guarantee Muck Muck is able to guarantee buffs going on to your demons. The other minions that are kind of important. The first one is Bejeweled Duelist. This is the elemental that whenever you do a reroll, you get 1 health on it. You're going to be doing a lot of rerolling in this, so you're going to get a lot of health there, and it's a really good stabilization unit. The next one is Silverwinder. This really just enables you to buy the hasty excavation spell, which is the one that normally deals 3 damage to you to get a gold. With this, obviously, you're getting a gold for free, which is going to be pretty OP. And then the last thing is Patient Scout. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So the way that I kind of think about when to go the strat, the first important thing is obviously Lubber needs to be available. He's a pirate elemental, so look for those too. The next thing that I look for is demons to be available. This allows you to do Silverwinder. Silverwinder is probably the most important unit out of the support units. Because Hasty Excavation is such a good spell. You can optionally skip this if you have a hero that has really good scaling. Those are specifically going to be probably ETC and Edwin, and that's probably about it. Again, I'll talk about the heroes later, but really look for demons, or you need to just have like the God game. You need to get all the units for free and like almost be forced to go this. The next thing is you need to have some type of like if demons are available, you should also be looking for some type of okay-ish scaling, and then some type of medium health hero. For that, I kind of think Deathwing is a good example of this, where he has a little bit of scaling, where he's giving all of his minions that have these really high health the 2 attack every turn. Another alternative to this is you can do something like Finley, where he can potentially play one of the like better hero power of heroes and have a little bit more health. Um, and I guess if you don't have that, the last thing I could say is you really need to have all 3 of Demons, Pirates, Ellie's available, and have a really high health hero, and that's something like Patchwork, and that's just you get a little bit more time to stabilize. This build really gets better the longer you play the game. Um, so, the next thing I kind of want to talk about is what you can do with Scout. So really, the way I think of Scout is you don't want to ever sell it until you triple it. And you can sell it for 4s, 5s, or 6s. Commonly, people are doing 4s and 6s. I think there's a couple options on 5. But again, a lot of this is what tribes are in the game. So on 4, the main ones you can look for are Living Azurite. This makes it so whenever you buy a spell, you're buffing your shop, and that makes it so you can then eventually triple elementals to make them big. That's what I do in the game that is going to be playing in the background. Another thing you can do with this that I didn't even think about while I was playing the current game, but something you can do is you can buy those Mind Mucks and force your Silverwinder to eat one of the demons, and there's only going to be really 2 minions in the shop most of the time because you have so many Lubbers on the board, and that gives you like a 50-50. If you buy 2 Mind Bucks, you can hold it to guarantee that you get the buffs on your Silverwinder. If pirates are available, another 4-drop that's available is going to be Peggy. This guarantees that whenever you buy a card, you're going to be putting a 1/1 buff on one of your Lubbers. The only risk to this is you generally end up selling your Lubbers So whenever I do this, I end up selling off so that I only have one golden Lubber on my board, and make it so I'm forcing all the buffs there. And then the drawback ends up being that once you go to Tavern 6, you're playing like one less minion in the shop. But you're gonna have so much gold that the extra spell being there, which is potentially more expensive, is probably worth the cost there. The next final unit on 4 that I tend to look for would be Frostling. And that's the elemental that whenever you play an elemental, it gains 1/1. And the big thing for that is if you're ever doing this strategy, Chef's Choice becomes a better spell, just because you can dig for the econ related elementals. On 5, there's actually more possibilities than I've been thinking. I'll be honest, I don't tend to go 5 often. However, now that I'm doing this video, I think I'm going to start selling on 5 a lot more, just because I see there's a lot more possibilities. So the first one that's there all the time is Fungus. Fungus is getting +1/+2 for every spell played, so that's just becoming a huge unit. On the next one, if pirates are available, there's the Underhanded Dealer. This is whenever you gain a gold, you get +1/+1. And with this, you kind of do the same thing as the Frostling strat, where you're just going to use this to create a bunch of econ elementals, sell them off, and you're just making gold that way. That also is going to get +1 whenever you play a Hasty Excavation. The other good 5-drop would be Master of Realities. And this is really just whenever you reroll, you have your Bejeweled Duelist. You're going to be giving +1/+1 for each duelist you have on the board. Also, if for whatever reason you go 5 after getting one of the other scalings, you're getting that buff here. It also makes it so if you're ever doing a weird turn where you end up binding like Arrow or something just to give one of your high health units more damage, makes it a little bit more better there. And then I guess the last is there's a couple of like safe fallback 5s which help you scale they give you a good tempo, and then make it so it's a little bit safer to do a go to 5 and stabilize kind of strat. And these would be something like Sandstone Drake, where this one you get a really high attack minion, and you just figure that it's going to go 2, maybe 3 for 1, just because it has enough health early in the game that it might be able to get a couple good trades in, and help you get to the 5 and stabilize. Another one would be something like Urzul. Potentially, it's kind of my theory craft of you could do that with something like Living Azurite. If you're just, for whatever reason, having a ton of bad luck and you're not tripling your scout, you go one and then the other. And then the last one is something I don't know how good it would be. I kind of want to test it. Is Critter Wrangler. And with this, you could buy the buff spells for the 1 cost, and they end up giving like double the ability. So the Lantern is now, instead of a 2/2/2, it's giving a 3/4, which seems a lot better. The other one would be Arrow, giving 5/2 instead of 4/0 for stats. So I think those are reasonable buffs that you then can start using your econ a little bit more for buffing your board. And again, I think this is another thing where it's like, it's not going to be great on its own, but you can use this to stabilize for a bit, buy some like more econ to help you get to 5, and then find a strat. The last thing is on 6, there's 2 really good cards. The first one is Nala, which you do this, you end up just creating a board of like Divine Shield units and buy every spell. It's really strong. There's a lot of Divine Shields on 2. There's the mechs, there's the one Drake, and then from there, like you kind of have scam solved. And then the other option is Rock Rock, and you do another like elemental econ strat with Rock Rock. I think the main thing to realize though with Scout is, at least the way I kind of think about it, is if you miss the Scout Discover, so if you don't get one of the units that we kind of mentioned, or you get one of the scenarios we were talking about, and you don't have a hero that's really good scaling, so that's again probably just ETC and Edwin. There might be some other ones that I haven't thought about. If you don't get those, at that point you just want to use your turn to play like overcompetences on a Kel'Thuzad, or just use Strike Oils to get yourself an econ and go to 5. And then you're almost playing like old Tathalon, where you will have, somewhere in the ballpark of 20-ish gold every turn, where everyone else only gets 10. Try to stabilize. You're probably going for a top 4 at that point. Okay, so last thing that I want to bring up is just my thoughts on the different heroes that can run this strat. really, you could do this with anything, but there's some heroes that are obviously made a lot better for this. So I'm just going to kind of go through them in the order that they come up, and just give my thoughts on a couple of the really good ones. Again, this is not an exhaustive list, but really just you kind of want to think about this during the hero selection of, can my hero do something special with this strat? So the first one is Deathwing. Again, we talked about it earlier, but this one is a way for you to give attack to your minions that are getting a bunch of health. So Bejeweled Duelist, Soul Rewinder are both scaling health for free. And now instead of having a 3, 100 unit, you're getting 9, 11, 13, 100 units that are able to get a lot better trades in that way. The next one that we've talked about a couple times are ETC and Edwin. For ETC, your main thing is on 2, you keep looking for the Edwin buddy. This makes it so whenever you buy a card, you're getting +1/+1 buff. Another thing you can do with this that I really like to do is I get those Edwin buddies, I get 2 of them, I make them really big. I eventually go to 6, and then I use the Sylvanas buddy to double those buffs onto like Divine Shields or Gale Wings or something like that, so that I get a little bit more valuable out of the buff. But again, that's playing late game. Honestly, just using 2 Edwin buddies to scale is still going to get you very far into the game. The next one, Edwin. Edwin is whenever you buy 4 units, you're getting, or 4 cards, you get +1/+1 for 1 mana, and it scales infinitely. So what you can do with that is you're buying a ton of these 1-cost spells like Hasty Excavation, a bunch of the econ spells. You're buying all the books to reroll. So you're able to get this hero power super big. I think one time I even got this to something like 50/50 before I was like staying on 2. I think in the game I play I actually just like kind of troll around with this, and I even stay on 2 the whole time because there's really no reason to level. Like, they weren't playing enough scam cards, and really, I guess that's another thing to point out with this build is your late game you're going to outscale essentially everything, and what you're going to lose to is scam. You know, stuff like Murgles, Murlocs with poison, and kind of like I was talking about in my 8.5k video that I put out the other day, is that as long like there's less scam being played in general. So next hero that I've kind of been thinking about, Galakron, is a really good one I've done a couple of times. This lets you dig a little bit easier for the 4, 5, 6 minions. If you hit, you can stay on 2. If you miss, I find it more consistent to go to 3 at the end. So you use your hero power at the end of your turn to make a 4, and if you miss on the 4, you go to make it a 5 just so you have a second chance. But the reason for going to 3 lets you enable your hero power, and you're not completely ruining the amount of spells that are available. There's an extra econ spell available to you. The last thing, though, is I think with Galakron is it plays in a weird curve that you end up staying on 2 so long that if you miss your first level for you don't get, one of these buff cards on your way up to 6. Say you get a different 6 calls like a Kali or whatever, like you can just use that as a different direction and play normally. Another potential choice here, I find Jaraxxus is a reasonable pick. He just has a lot of health, and the other option that you have with Jaraxxus is because of his hero power, you essentially get those Muck Mucks for 1 cost instead of 3 costs. And you also don't need to play like a buff spot if you just have your board filled already, and you're kind of just waiting to triple units. So Jaraxxus gives Jaraxxus in this case actually is more dependent on the elementals, and you need both elementals and demons, but you're really not playing this unless that's already an option. The next kind of heroes, Maiev works this. There's nothing special about the strategy that Maiev isn't still a decent hero. The other ones are a couple of good heroes for just finding the key units. Something you'll notice with this strat is sometimes you're missing one of your key units until turn 7 sometimes, and it just makes it scaling a little bit slower. So 2 good heroes for that would both be Malygos and Nozdormu. Another good hero would be Reno. This is typical Reno where it's a high risk thing. If you get a good unit on one of your scout rolls, then you're able to triple it right away. And win the game from there from infinite scaling. Voon is a good hero. You're able to use it to easily triple the scout, let you probably go for a second scout triple, and with that you can um, use that to almost guarantee that you find a good card to scale. Rat King is kind of similar to Mali and Nas. The only drawback to this is you have less control over it, and you have less armor to play with. Gallywix is another good hero. You're able to use econs, which you're going to have anyways. You're able to use the elementals to econ, and you start getting that Gallywix hero power online a lot earlier. The only thing with this is I end up buying more strike oils because you'll realize that a lot of the time when you have so much econ, you're going to run out of time on your turns a lot. So getting strike oils to get your gold down to like the 15 to 20ish range and then play your turn is a lot more manageable. Um, Another hero is Yashiraj. Again, this is kind of like the Mali Nas thing. You're playing with a little bit more armor, but you have a lot less control over it because it's more variants. And then the last thing is Thorin is a good pick. My favorite thing to do with this is use Varian to find Nala or Rockrock. But you can also use that to use Sargeras to kind of enable Urzul, or you can potentially use Veldrake if you miss the scout. And you're able to unlock your hero a lot earlier. And let's say you get this early unlock and you just completely whiff whatever you're doing. You should have the econ to go to 5 and just change your hero and stabilize. So really what this is all doing in general is really just getting to a point where you have some type of scaling, you have a ton of econ, and then you make the choice either to double down on your scaling and just get even bigger, or you make the option to level up to 5 and find more scam units there, or you go to 6 to just find an OP strat from there. And really, if you're leveling up, you just make sure you have the econ to go ahead of time. So thanks again for listening, guys. I hope this was a little informative to you, and I hope you guys have a good one.
You got a rich gold vein there, don't